Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Rinks and welcome to Talking AEW. This is the start of a brand new series where I'll talk about everything AEW. It ranges from individual deep dives from wrestlers to various topics to other things related to AEW. So in this first installment, we're going to be talking about the women's division of AEW. I want to talk about how the women's division has a lot of potential of being one of the best things in the company, and it's very underutilized. It has a lot of potential, but they don't seem to know what to do with some of the competitors and wrestlers in the division. And I wanted to talk about the wrestlers, about why I like them, some of the criticisms that I have with the division, and maybe some new things that they can try. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Hold up, wait. Before we start on the video, I need to clarify something. This is editing me here. I filmed this prior to this week's episode of Dynamite and a couple other AEW related content, and it seems like some of the things that I said in my video were kinda debunked, but at the same time I still want to release this video because my video has a lot of points that are still relevant. It looks like they're changing some things with the women's division, but that doesn't mean it's going to change in the grand scheme of things anytime soon. So I wanted to make that clear before I continue on. So let's get right back into it. To start out with this video, there are 3 problems I have with the division, and these are 3 common criticisms that I see towards the women's division. The first one is the women's division does not have any storylines, or at least longevity to their storylines. With Shida, which I'm going to say for last because there's one criticism particular that pertains to champions, but I'm going to wait for that towards the end. When it comes to the women's division, they don't have any established storylines or feuds against one another. Other than Britt Baker versus Big Swole that just happened, there's not really any other feuds that are going on in the women's division. With Nyla, she's a good person to pair someone with, and she just had Vicky Guerrero as her manager, but there seems to be no direction with her right now. With the whole Britt Baker and Big Swole feud, are they ending it just like that? And that one has been the only one that had a long storyline. That started like in February. And then it just now kind of concluded at the beginning of this month. It makes you wonder if they're going to continue on with it or they're going to break it off. But other than that, there's not really any feuds within the women's division. There's one with Brandy and Anna Jay right now, but I feel like they're going to end that really quickly in the next Dynamite at the time of this recording. And that's something that I think it needs to be addressed. I think they need to have storylines with their women's division. You have enough wrestlers to do a storyline, or at least pick one where you can focus on, or maybe dedicate a couple women's matches in Dynamite. Because you already have like maybe 2 or 3 of them on Dark. Maybe have 2 of them on Dynamite. And they could really develop into their own storyline because people are supposed to be invested in the women's division. How can you have them invested if you don't put them on the air? With the tag team tournament, I thought that was going to be the start of something, but it just seems like it's 10 steps backwards instead of 5 steps forward. Yes, you're giving them spotlight, but we barely heard anything of the tournament outside that little airtime on YouTube. Barely talked about it on Dynamite when it was going on, and then barely anything on Twitter. And then that's not even fair to the other competitors too that are outside of that tournament. Now, you could say that it's part of the pandemic, which that is true. They did lose like about 6 wrestlers because of the pandemic within that division, but it gets to a point where, okay, you kind of have to adapt to certain situations because you did that with the other divisions. Why can't you do that with the women? It just seems like they put more stock into their tag team and their male division, but they don't seem to want to strengthen the women's division. And you have a roster to work with, and also you have wrestlers that are outside of AEW that are coming in, and you can utilize them too, even if it's for a little bit. You have Diamante, you have Ivelisse, you have Thunder Rosa, which a lot of people liking right now. You have Britt Baker and Chris Statlander who are sidelined because of injuries, and then Awesome Kong is filming for Glow. And then they just lost Bea Priestley and Sadie Gibbs. But I felt like since losing those two, they have gained other competitors. And then you have the talent that's been on Dark. A lot of them have been pretty good and they've been kind of utilizing them. And then you have new stars rising up. So there's a lot of ground that you can cover with the people that you've lost. You got new people, but it just seems like they're not wanting to try something new. I feel like it's because of the whole Nightmare Collective. They don't want to pull the trigger on anything because they feel like the wrestling community is going to reject it. And AEW needs to realize that no, we want to do this. We're confident in this. People are either going to like it or they're not, or they're going to hate it. There are far more competitors that you can utilize in storylines, even if the storyline lasts for like a month. At least do a solid 4 to 5 episodes building a feud and then move on to the next one. You did that with the Best Friends versus Santana and Ortiz. That one was about a month's worth, and then you ended it on a main event on Dynamite, and that match just got a 5-star rating. So it can be done, even if it's a mini feud. It can be done. Just translate that towards the women's division. The second criticism I have towards the division, and this kind of goes hand in hand with longer storylines that are absent in AEW when it comes to the women's division, they don't utilize their characters as they should be. Or to clarify, there are certain women wrestlers that are not being utilized to their fullest extent or not even being used at all. 2 characters come up to mind. The first one is Leva Bates. I've seen her compete and I'm sitting there going, why isn't she being used in the storyline? I would like her to feud with somebody. Is it that she doesn't wrestle as much? I don't know. Anyone in the comments, do shed some light to me on that if you know. But with Leva Bates, I don't know if they're like teasing that she's going to break off with Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler and she's going to do her own thing. She is someone that grew on me since the very beginning that I didn't know much about the Librarian gimmick. And I want to see more of her. That I want to see her feuding with somebody else or her become her own thing. I don't want her to be just a sidekick. I've always viewed her as the same level as Peter Avalon. I would like to see her feud, even if it's like a mini feud. I would like to see her try against Nyla, where she's trying to prove herself that she can compete. Or maybe that she's bumping up the ladder where she's getting win after win after win, and then she goes after Sheeta. So there's a lot to go with Leva if you would give her a chance, and I don't understand why they don't even use Leva, let alone anybody else like Ford or Swole or even Diamante and Ivelisse. Like, it just seems like they're now starting to use those two, but it's not at their fullest potential. The next one, which is my biggest concern. Allie is a good wrestler. I've seen her compete a good bit, and I don't understand why she's not as competing as much. I figured she would already be going after the title against Sheeta, or at least against anybody else. It just seems like they relegated her to being QT Marshall, and I have a lot of concerns on that. Not really gripes, but just concerns. One, why are we even doing this in the first place? Like, I am glad that they don't treat women like as objects and such, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way when it comes to Allie. Because I loved her when she was with the Butcher and Blade, where she was this temptress, where we didn't even get to see what she can do as a wrestler in that persona. Where this bunny is very aggressive and she'll do whatever she takes to get her way up to the top. When coming to that, where she converted from them to QT Marshall or Nightmare Family, there wasn't an explanation. It was just one day you just saw her in a red dress and she started hanging out with QT Marshall. And you're sitting there going, well, first off, why is she hanging out with QT Marshall or wanting to be like hooking up with QT Marshall? If anything, why not try her to go after Hangman Adam Page or somebody higher up that's like, oh, she's getting into the title picture because she wants to be like with a winner. And nothing against QT, but it just doesn't make sense for just to pair her with him. I thought the point would be like, oh, she's going to trick him because the Butcher and Blade are going to come in, but it just seems like they're not going to trick the Nightmare family at all. Like, it just seems like, oh, she's with him, and there's not really any explanation. And it's kind of disrespectful. It's kind of undermining her that she has all this wrestling talent and she has this drive to prove herself. Why not utilize that in other places? Why relegate her to this spot? And also to be like the tag team partner of Brandy, which again, when you really look at the tournament, it was just a way for them to win, which I'm actually glad that they didn't win. God, the wrestling internet would have been on fire if that would have happened. When it comes to Allie, now it just seems like they teasing the Butcher and Blade facing off against Natural Nightmares, which, again, why? Why not utilize Allie as a way she's going after the title against Sheeta, or at least feuding with another person like Swole, Ford, even Nyla? It just doesn't make sense to me that she's just been relegated. She just seems like she's a plot device rather than her own character. I don't see a big payoff when it comes to her being with QT Marshall or just being with the Nightmare family in general, and why she splintered off from the Butcher and Blade. I don't see it. I really don't. And also, again, I'm pretty sure it's consensual, but I don't know. I just didn't like the fact that, come to find out in real life, she is married to the Blade, and then just kind of separate her from him to be with another guy. I don't know. I've always kind of been bothered by that in wrestling thing, because I get it. It's all predetermined. It's all storylines, but it just kind of rubs me the wrong way when it comes to stuff like that. But with Allie and with Leva Bates and with all the other competitors, they deserve better storylines, and they deserve to be utilized in a better way. A different contrast to this is Anna Jay being in the Dark Order. To be honest, I thought that was just going to be a bad thing from the start. No, actually, it is a complete 180. She is right up there with Brody Lee when it comes to terms to relevance to the storyline. Because with Anna Jay, she was already good, that she's only had a handful of matches at this point, and she just seems to be getting better overall. And also, with the Dark Order, I thought it was just something that, oh, okay, they were just going to add her there because they didn't know what to do. But it just seems like she's taking shape into her own persona, that we're seeing something completely different, because again, she's just starting out and she's just taking this gimmick into her own. She is the Queen Slayer. So instead of being an extender or a plot device to a storyline, she is becoming her own thing. That she's not relegated to just being a member. She is on equal footing in the group, if not in a higher hierarchy in the Dark Order. That's where it comes in a different contrast, where Anna Jay is being utilized right, and I was so worried about that. I thought it was just going to be a disaster, or at least it was going to be okay. But now, with Anna Jay, she's being propelled into a top spot, and I actually would like to see her feud with other people as well, to kind of give her more, as not say wins on her record, but to prove that she is a threat, that okay, I can see her as champion soon. Whereas contrast with Allie, that you're not doing anything with her, you're just relegating her as something to extend another storyline that's not even within the women's division, and not even that, just she was just used as a way to extend Brandy's storyline in the women's division, and not really to extend Allie as a whole. And that's just something I had a problem with that. The final criticism that I have with women's division in AEW, and to me this is the biggest one. I mean, the other two are just as serious. I think this is more adding insult to injury. They treat the women's championship like a joke. With Sheeta, we just now are getting a good champion, but even then, they're not promoting her with the TNT championship the AEW World Championship, or even the Tag Team Champions, which they hold those titles in the highest regard, and then the TNT, and then the AEW World title, and then even a little bit more the FTW title, and then the Women's Championship, and it shouldn't be. All the titles should be on equal level of prestige. People are wanting these titles, that people are wanting to see them like, wow, it's a big deal. People treat the Women's Championship like an afterthought when it shouldn't be. It should be right up there being talked about. With Shida, with the last several feuds that she had, her matches are really good, but you didn't have a good storyline building up to it. It goes again with the whole storyline bit that I talked about earlier. But she's your champion. You're supposed to have a proper build to make me care about the matches, because again, the matches themselves, when you separate the match from the feud, the match are really good, especially with Shida. But how am I supposed to care about a match if I don't get a proper feud to build? I would have loved to seen her and Penelope Ford going back at each other, and then Shida finally gets her revenge on her. I would have loved to seen a feud with her and Rosa, where these two are trying to prove each other, and they had the right amount of build towards it. I don't know if it was like a last minute thing, like, oh, we need to have someone against Shida, why not Rosa? But I could already tell that they had this plan for at least a month or two prior. Especially with Rosa. Rosa's such a good character. It would have been interesting to see Rosa a bit more before her feud with Shida, that match that they had at All Out. The women, even before the pandemic, the women's title was nowhere near as high a regard in AEW. Nyla, when she was champion, it felt like she wasn't really given a proper reign. And then when she did defend the title, she lost against Shida. And then prior to that, when Nyla took the belt off of Riho was barely there, and I understand that she's a part-timer, that she's not really, or she wasn't going to be there for a while, but why put the title on her and then just not see her when your champion should be there? But when it comes to the title, it should be in high regards. I do believe that certain wrestlers and certain personas are much bigger than the title, but the title should always be the center. That it's not a plot device. It should be the thing that you go after. It should be the thing that you cherish most. With the women's title, it should be right up there. Again, the matches are good when it involves the women's title, but the feud and the build for it is just not acceptable. All these things that are a problem with the division, with the criticisms that it gets, they go hand in hand with each other. The title is not being talked about, or not exposed enough, or not given a proper feud or build. It goes hand in hand with not utilizing the wrestlers in the women's division, and it goes hand in hand with not giving them a proper long storyline or proper feuds. So all of these criticisms go well into each other, and it makes you wonder, why aren't they addressing this? It just seems like they address any other problem in the company but that. You're willing to give certain people second chances, but you're not willing to give your women's division a chance. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on wrestling. I'm not a critic. I'm just some guy making videos. I may be ignorant on certain things, and forgive my ignorance on a lot of things, but these are a lot of things that I had on my mind when it comes to the women's division. And then that's the thing about it, is that I care a lot about the wrestlers that I think they should be given their due. Because again, I love their matches and I love their personas. And I think they should be utilized, or people should see more of them. Because again, from the little bits that we see from each individual competitor, I wanted more. You can maybe put a couple more women's matches on Dynamite, or build a proper feud, or put them more on BTE. Put more promos with them. Because that's another thing that a lot of people don't really get behind the women's division. A lot of times they don't know who they're cheering for. Like, give them more promo time. Put them on BTE. That a lot of people can know who they're cheering for, or they're like, hey, this person's interesting, I like them, or I love to hate them. I want to see more of them. The women's division does have a lot of potential because there's not a negative thing when it comes to the competitors themselves, that not one of them is a bad wrestler, and their gimmicks are sound. You just got to put them in a storyline where the two can click, or the group can click, and then people can start cheering for both sides. That's what it is at the end of the day, that a lot of people have a criticism or they have a problem with the division, is that they actually care about the competitors, that they care about their happiness, which they all look very happy. And at the end of the day, I'm very happy about that. I'm happy that they get to do what they love. I just want them to be in the same level as the tag team division. I want them to be treated with the same love as the tag team division does. I just want them to be given the proper respect. They deserve respect. They deserve to be listened to. They deserve to be in the same level as any other division in the company. And that's it. We're done talking AEW. I actually like doing this video. It felt very serious compared to any other stuff that I did. And wrestling is a very big love of mine. It's one of my big passions in life. And I felt really good talking about it. And there will be more in the future. I wanted to do a lot of deep dives to other storylines, to matches, or even wrestlers themselves. Let's wrap up the video. Hit the notification bell to let you know when some more videos would come out. Also, like, subscribe, share, and also there'll be handles in my description for my Twitter, Instagram, and Vero. Until next time, thank you for talking with me.